グロービス学び放題知見録。
Yes, we are so happy to have Dr. Shane Legg, who is the founder of DeepMind, to be here. And thank you very much for coming all the way from UK to this G1 Summit. Thank you very much. At the same time, thank you very much for Dr. Shane Gu for a great introduction. You have been the bridge builder between real-world robotics and also AI as well. Thank you for your introduction. At the same time, thank you, Akiko, how should I call Murakami-san, for joining us. She has been like a pioneer in data safety science, this and bridging data and also large-scale data and also safety. And this is the first time ever conducted, a session conducted in English. And I hope that this, at the same time, translation is being done on the screen by Kotoba Technology of Kojima-san. Thank you for your cooperation. I hope things will work well. And then, I'm so glad that, such a great figure to be joining us for G1 Summit. Let me start to asking you, Dr. Shane Legg, could you share, I have prepared well, could you share what originally drew you to the quest of AGI? And we are now at the point where the realism of AGI is no longer a fringe theory. Looking back at your early definitions of AGI at DeepMind, which technical hurdles have proven more difficult than anticipated, and which breakthroughs have progressed faster than you had expected?
Okay, thank you. And yes, thank you so much for welcoming me here. It's a great honor to be able to be here and address all of you today. I think a key point in my interest in AGI occurred in the year 2000, and I was reading a book called The Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil. And in that, he talks about all sorts of things, but he talks about the increasing power of computation over time, and the amount of data would be increasing over time, and so on. And after that, I became convinced that this progress in computation power and data would continue for a few decades. And that would mean that very powerful artificial intelligence would be possible in the 2020s and the 2030s. And so I decided to then bet my career on that prediction. Okay. So that's when I decided to go to Switzerland and do a PhD in artificial intelligence. So that was really a turning point for me. And it turned out to be a very good prediction all these years later. The key challenge we had when we first started DeepMind, and we wanted to build an artificial general intelligence, an AI with general capabilities, I believe was the ability to build very large models, AI models or neural networks, that were able to form abstractions, right? Abstract concepts. And that is what allows them to understand things and to generalize effectively. And I think the most important breakthrough there was a model called the Transformer, which was invented in Google. And it's now the basis of all the LLM chatbots you see today. That was the model that could be scaled to billions of parameters and would form sufficient abstractions to be able to have some kind of understanding of all this data at very, very large scale. So I think that was the biggest breakthrough, and that's what allowed the sort of forming of abstract concepts and so on. And the biggest challenge, was that the other question?
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge we're facing at the moment is probably continual learning, which is the ability for an AI system, once it's deployed, to keep learning over an extended period of time. They can learn over shorter periods of time in something that's called a context window, but in order for an AI to become really valuable, like a human, it needs to keep learning over years. And we haven't cracked this problem yet. I think there are some promising avenues to addressing this problem. But that, I think, is one of the big limitations of current systems.
Let me ask you a follow-up question about, you have founded DeepMind. how did you decide to start DeepMind? And then at the same time, it has become the pioneer in AI, and which has created history of those to follow, like OpenAI and Anthropic. And how did you initiate that?
Yes, so I, after my PhD degree in Switzerland, I became interested in the connection between artificial intelligence and neuroscience. And so I went to a place called the Gatsby Unit, which is at University College London. And it's a place that studies both neuroscience and artificial intelligence together, and in some cases, the connections between the two. And it was while I was there, I met Demis Hassabis, the co-founder of DeepMind, with me. And we shared a belief that artificial and general intelligence would be possible within a decade or two. And we thought about trying to do this in academia, but we decided that it would require too many resources and scale to do in academia, so we need to do it as a business. I was a bit more skeptical. I thought in 2009, 2010, it would be too difficult to start an artificial intelligence company. And it was actually very difficult raising funds. People didn't want to invest in it. But we eventually got some funding from the United States, and that's how we started the company. We knew it would be a number of years before AI became powerful, but we wanted to get started before the AI wave came, so we were early. But it just makes it harder to get funded. But then later on, we had to sell to Google because we were still small. We were only 100 people, and the area was taking off, and the big tech companies wanted to get all our employees because we had lots of deep learners. And so that's when we had to sell to Google, and then Elon Musk was one of our investors. So then he didn't have a stake in DeepMind, so he wanted a competitor, and then you have OpenAI and da-da-da-da. So all these things happen afterwards. Yeah, so we sort of started the whole process there in a way.
Yeah, so we are so happy to have such a pioneer of AI, and actually a great entrepreneur as well, starting up AI research company. And then it must have been so difficult to raise funds, but you were not able to raise funds from UK, but from US.
Yeah, so we raised about $200,000 equivalent, I think, in the United Kingdom.
Not so much.
Mostly from people who knew Demis from his private. Okay. And then the first big investor was Peter Thiel.
I see. Peter Thiel.
Yeah, so, well, he's famously contrarian. And so when we met him in San Francisco, we told him we wanted to build an artificial general intelligence company. And he went and talked to a lot of professors, and they all said, this is a terrible idea. You should never invest in this. So then he called us back and said, I'll give you some money. You seem like really smart guys, and you're doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing. So I'll give you a try. But I think his contrarian nature also proved to be a problem as well, because a few years later, in 2013, AI was taking off, and everybody wanted to invest in it. And we said, okay, if DeepMind is going to keep continuing independently, we need a huge investment now, because all the big techs are interested. And he's like, oh, it's a hot area now, and he's not so interested, so he sold. He should have kept on owning DeepMind.
Sure. As an entrepreneur, you always there are quite a few entrepreneurs here, and we all know it's so difficult to get funded initially. But the time will come, the timing that we feel it's gone well, it seems to be going well, and then at the same time, people heard about AlphaGo. When was the time that you felt that these things will go well? And at the same time, let me hear about the story about AlphaGo. How did you, end up doing AlphaGo? And then after that, I will ask Shengu and also please go ahead.
Don't worry.
I'll give it a shot.
Because the story is so interesting, Because the story is so interesting.
So we had many moments that were exciting. The first one was DQN playing Atari games.
Oh, yeah.
And it would just look at the screen and the score, and it would learn to play it by itself. You wouldn't have to tell it anything. That was our first breakthrough. And then Demis is a very passionate game player. He loves chess, he loves Go, he loves poker, he loves computer games. He loves all the games. And Go was famous as a game that computers were not very good at. They'd already done chess, they'd already done a number of other things, checkers and so on. But Go was the last, because the depth, the complexity in the game of Go is so much more than in chess or other games. And so the computers couldn't handle it. And so that really got Demis excited. It's like, okay, we want to do the hardest game now. We want to go for the big one. And so I think we recognized that the deep learning approach was becoming sufficiently mature to be able to be applied to Go. So we could give instead of just relying on search to look through all the possibilities, which is impossible in Go because it's so many possibilities, there are so many different moves, we could rely on the deep learning to evaluate in a more intuitive way how good a board position is, and also recommend good potential moves to consider in the search. And that was, I think, that combined with a self-learning loop where you learn from your own mistakes, that was the combination that led through to the breakthrough. So that was a very exciting period.
Let me just ask one more question about, like, as an entrepreneur, I always have to worry about cash flow. But in terms of like DeepMind, it doesn't seem like some kind of business model which will create cash flow until AlphaGo. And then at the same time, like, I'd like to hear about what kind of culture you had in DeepMind, because it seems like people are having fun with scientific discovery. Like, I'd like to hear about your story about how you got funded with cash flow and business model and also culture.
Yeah, so prior to Google, artificial intelligence researchers were not very expensive. Things have changed. And that's partly why we had to go to Google, because we realized that the researchers were becoming very, very expensive, but also the cost of the compute was becoming enormous. The capital expenditure at Google this year, this is public information, but the capital expenditure of Google this year on AI hardware is $185 billion.
Wow. Only hardware?
That's the CapEx, yeah.
Wow, CapEx.
So we knew that this was going to happen and was going to go. And so we needed to partner with a company that could afford it. And the really key thing in terms of becoming part of Google and working with that was the fact that one of the founders of Google, Larry Page, he always believed in AI. He always thought that Google in the future would be an AI company because search is just a step towards intelligent processing of information, and that means artificial intelligence. So from the very beginning, when we started talking to Larry Page, he was a strong believer in what we were trying to do, and he was willing to use the financial muscle of Google to enable us to try to achieve our mission of building artificial general intelligence. So that's how we dealt with our cash flow.
I see. That's good. Thank you very much. Let me go to Dr. Shane Gu. So looking from like OpenAI and Google, and then what are you finding recently interesting and exciting for you? And then how is it exciting for you to be working with Dr. Shane Leg?
Currently, on the technical side, I'm working on a project that's between Gemini, which is a language model, and Veo, which is the video generation model. I actually wrote a paper on evaluation like 6 months ago that essentially if you really want to capture all the information in the world, all kind of intelligence, in fact, Shane can agree, like besides continual learning, this visual spatial learning is kind of key. So I'm kind of co-leading that reasoning project, which includes a lot of modeling and collaboration between the Gemini and Veo to make that kind of stuff work. So I'm very excited about that. I also have a small team that's working on Gemini's reasoning model thinking. We are a bit behind maybe on coding, but we're going to catch up very quickly. What we are here today with Shane Leg is really to talk with business executives and policymakers. And a lot of people kind of ask me why I do this. Because most of the researchers, they never really go outside technical kind of space. But thanks to Hori-san and thanks to multiple connections at G1, I think Ueno-san is the first one who invited me to G1 about 3.5 years ago. But the reason I enjoy it has pretty much kind of three reasons. So the first reason is that AGI is really about AGI. So I have to know what's the best intelligence in every field. By talking to you, I can very efficiently talk to the top business people how you think about it, the top media people how you think about it, the top policymakers how you think about it. So I'm really enjoy this time here. So I attended the 4 sessions. I really enjoy the learning I have. And it kind of inspired me about AGI. The second thing is the basic preparation. I think Shane can talk more about this post-AGI team he just started a few months ago. But essentially, AGI is going to be very consequential because it's a replication of the intelligence which drive every single society. So it's going to change every single society. You got to rebuild it. So we got to start a conversation. But thankfully, I think Shane can talk more later. But we're going to we really enjoy, we just presented to the LDP, Jiminto, about a few days ago in front of the policymakers. They're very excited to hear from Shane. So I think we need to start a conversation. The third is, what's the most valuable post-AGI asset? Obviously, I'd love to hear from Shane as well, but one thing I often tell people is the people. In the post-AGI, like AI can do a lot of the coding that I did like many years ago. Like I was able to predict that 4 years ago, so I just kind of focus on modeling, just making AI to replace my work. But anything sort of productive, you're gonna feel a lot of difficulty to compete with AI. But what's really kind of keeping us unique, what's really kind of keeping valuable, I think is a human asset. It's really the human relationships, trusts, and those kind of things really take time and build. So hopefully this time I'm really excited to bring Shane Leg here to really start a network, start a conversation, to really kind of form the trust between Shane Leg, DeepMind, or in general just the West, with the best and brightest of Japan. So thank you so much for inviting.
So hearing from Dr. Shane Leg, we heard about what is going on globally in AI development. And we're hearing from Dr. Shane Gu about the strengths and weaknesses of Japan. Let's ask Murakami-san about Japan is often viewed as a global laboratory for saving high-stakes societal challenges such as aging population and energy resilience. From your perspectives at the AI Safety Institute and Sompo, how can Japan move from being a consumer of AI to a leader in applying it to these critical real-world frontiers?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me today. So I heard this session will be in English just 2 days before. So I'm getting very nervous because of I'm not a native tongue. So please accept, apologize. My English is not so good. But anyway, so I would like to answer the question about Japan is a leadership of the current cutting edge world issue. Like all the ages and disaster recovery, too many disasters in the area and so on. And I have the double hat, and I'm working for the Japanese government keep the AI safety, and also that I'm working as a chief data officer for the insurance company. So the insurance is a kind of keep the platform for keeping the safety and the secure the world, and also this third work is slightly different, but it's tightly connected. I do believe so. And the Japan tried to the recovery from the disaster and the recovery from the so many the difficult the challenges like how to care the elderly people for the smaller people in the world. So this country is a cutting edge of so many types of these problems. But we have the AI for now. So my career started as a researcher on the AI, and my research area was natural language processing. So I'm very shocked with this technology. So because of the perfectly translated our English into Japanese, and the AI can do every types of the things, and we have fewer people, and we have to doing so much things in the fewer people. So that's why the AI support us very much. But in the AI, the era of the statistical models, I very worry about that. The stochastical models use the data, and we created the models with the data. So that's why the answer from the AI is a kind of our answer we are already getting before. But in the generative AI era, the things are totally different. So because of the answer is not the answer which we received before, and this is generated by the AI. So that's this is the good and bad things. So because of the good things is that we just do not cap the result before our behavior. So the AI supports us the wonderful world, and we are creating the new world with the AI. And the another thing is that we have to keep the AI in the how can I say that it's we have to keep the AI in the expected behavior. So because of the AGI era, the AI doing like the human. So in the human being, we expect your behavior, but we cannot control your behavior. So that's very, very similar to the AGI era. We cannot control the AGI perfectly. So that's why I do believe that we have to keep thinking about the AI safety and how to treat the data in the future. So it's not directly the response for your question, but I do believe so.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me go back to Dr. Shane Legg. So AlphaGo was about winning in a closed environment game. Today you are using AI to solve broad and rich challenges. How do you think about ensuring human benefit and safety in these very rich and open environments?
Yeah, so this is a very important question. In the past, when AI systems would do one very specific thing, the safety was not so much of a concern. So AlphaGo can only make Go moves, and there's only so much risk with making Go moves, right? So it's not a big problem. Whereas as AI becomes more general and starts interacting with many, many things in the world, then the range of behaviors that can be problematic, as you were saying, starts becoming very, very large. And we can't test every possible behavior in every possible situation in the world. That's impossible. So we need to have different approaches to solve this much more difficult safety problem. So we need to do things like check the robustness of the model. Does it have a good understanding of things in the world? We need to test it in all kinds of adversarial situations where we're trying to get it to behave badly and seeing if it's able to resist and keep behaving in a way that's acceptable. We need to do things like interpretability, where we look inside the model and try to understand whether what's going on inside the model is consistent with what the model is saying and doing, so that we can trust the model better. Because it's like not just listening to someone's words, but being able to look inside their brain and see what they're thinking a bit, right? And making sure that looks good. We also need to have better techniques of monitoring, which means the system is deployed and it's acting in the real world, and we may have another system that is observing it and looking for cases of misbehavior. So I think it's going to be very important to work on all of these things and make the systems much more robust and trusted, and we can catch problems when they arise much more quickly. But there is another very important part, it's now, but I think even increasing in the future, which is these AI systems have what some people call a constitution, which is a written explanation of the values and preferences and so on that AI system should have. And so we have almost a sort of a philosophical, ethical question of what values, what social norms, what types of behavior, etc., do we want the system to have? Because we have to write and explain to the AI, this is how we want you to behave. And in some cases, it'll be, well, you should behave in these ways and not these ways because it's law. In some cases, we might think it's unethical. In some cases, it might be culture specific. Maybe in Japan, you should behave this way and this way, but in a different country, maybe it's different, right? And then some cases, it may be just due to what the corporation wants. The corporation thinks that this sort of behavior is not on brand, whereas this sort of behavior is more on brand, and we prefer this, even though it's not against the culture or illegal or unethical. It's just sort of more how we want our AI to behave. So all of these things need to come together. And so I think there's very interesting questions for governments, for society in general, and for people working in ethics and philosophy to think about, how do you want AIs to be? What values do you want an AI to have? And some of these may be enforced by law, some of them may be optional, and so on. So there's some very important questions for society and governments and academics and so on to think about there.
Okay, good. When I did some Google, you are coming up as the founder of the concept of AGI. Or you virtually created the word AGI. I'm quite curious about how far are we in terms of AGI? I'm not sure whether it's easy to answer, but I'm just asking you, how far are we in terms of AGI, and what's going to happen after we reach AGI?
I proposed the term AGI in 2002 because a lot of AI research then was about very specific things, and I wanted a term to be able to refer to this old dream of thinking machines that could do lots of different things that were general. So I proposed that. Now there are a lot of different definitions of AGI around, okay? And that creates a lot of confusion because people say, oh, we already have AGI, or we're going to have it in 2 years, we'll have it in 20 years, but they're using different definitions, so it's very confusing. So I've started using the phrase minimal AGI as the minimum you would need to have before I would consider it to be an AGI. So that's why the phrase I use. And I say that a minimal AGI is when the AI can do all of the cognitive things that people can typically do, and in some cases more. But it should never be below the sort of cognitive capability that is normal in people. And when we reach that level, just like we say humans have general intelligence, then the AI has general intelligence too.
I see.
And a few years ago, we were very far away from that. And then in recent years, you've all seen these AI systems, Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and so on, become closer and closer to be able to do many of the cognitive things people can typically do. Not experts necessarily, just typically do. But there are still a few areas of weakness, and Shengu pointed to one of them, which is around vision, visual understanding. Another important one I referred to earlier is continual learning, an ability to keep learning over an extended period of time. The AIs are nowhere near as good as humans at this. And this limits the AI's capabilities a lot. But I believe that there is a 50% chance that we will reach human level continual learning and visual understanding in the next 2 years.
In 2 years?
In 2 years, yeah. But that's 50% chance. So it may or may not happen. It might be only 1 year. If things happen fast, maybe it's 3, 4, 5 years. I would be surprised if it's more than 5 years.
I see.
And then when that happens, the world doesn't change overnight because the AI can do cognitive things people can normally, typically do. You know, the typical person walking down the street is not going to invent the successor to quantum theory, right? But you also have to understand that the capabilities of an AI, some people say it's jagged, it's uneven, right? So already an AI system like Gemini can speak 150 languages, right? It's already doing mathematics at the level of international math competitions and in some cases research mathematics. So it's already very high level human or superhuman when it comes to, say, speaking languages or general world knowledge. It's already superhuman. But then in some other areas, it's below typical human. So it's very uneven. So an important thing to understand is not necessarily when you get to AGI. When you get to minimal AGI, the AI will stop failing in ways that would be surprising if a human failed in that way. See? So it has a certain robustness now because it can do all the cognitive things people can normally do. But the other thing to keep an eye on is, where is it developing professional level ability or even superhuman ability? Because that's where you'll start seeing revolutions happening in particular industries and areas.
You have signed up the AI risk of extinction, human extinction. I just want to hear, what is your reason behind and what is your worried about AI?
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about AI in the coming years, to be clear. Even when it reaches minimal AGI, I'm not too worried about that. There is always, with any powerful technology, there is always a potential for misuse, and there will be people misusing it for cyber attacks, using it for all sorts of criminal activities and other stuff. And there'll be people using it for medical research and using it for solving all kinds of problems in the world. That's the nature of powerful technologies. So it's important that society pays attention to that and creates the right rules and regulations and so on, right? If you're worried about these more extreme risks, that is where we go further into the future and we wonder whether the AI could become extremely intelligent, superhumanly intelligent. And so then there's a question of, we may know how to make something with approximately human level intelligence safe and ethical and reliable. Do we know how to do it further in the future with something that has a superhuman level of intelligence? And we don't know the answer to that at the moment. And that means that there is some element of risk. My hope is that as we get to AGI, minimal AGI, we will get very good at aligning these systems with human values. And that seems to be what's happening today. The alignment of the systems is actually getting better and better in a way that's more optimistic than some people were worried about a few years ago. If that trend continues, we may find ourselves with superhuman AI in the future that's superhumanly ethical and responsible. And then we would live in a very good world because it would have incredible capabilities, but it would actually be more consistently ethical than even most people, right? So that's the dream, but we don't know yet. That's too far in the future. And so there is some risk associated because we just don't know all the answers yet.
Being a moderator, I'd like to ask one more question. And I'm running a business school. And then running a business school, they talk about the AI world, the education is going to change because the skill set that we require are going to be changed. How do you envision the schools have to change in terms of education? Or how would your kids or your grandkids want to be educated?
Yeah, that's a good question and a hard question too, actually, because there will be a lot of change. And the way I say is that you think of all the different areas of society: law, accounting, finance, education, literature, medicine, mathematics, every faculty and department in the university, human intelligence matters in some way. And so if you have abundant machine intelligence that's cheap and fast, it will change the law. It'll change how law is done. It'll change how the economy works. It'll change all of these things, right? And so education is one example. So there are a few different aspects. One is that it will be possible to have personalized tuition that's cheap and good. And so if I wanted to learn Japanese, I don't need a Japanese person around to teach me. I can get the AI to talk to me and teach me Japanese because it knows 150 languages. And then it'll learn that I understand some things in Japanese, but I have struggled with some concepts in the language or the pronunciation or whatever. And so it will be able to adapt the learning for me, or whether it's calculus or I want to learn to program in a computer language, whatever. So I think the possibilities for education will be enormous. Now, at the moment, the children of wealthy families have that because parents can pay for tuition. But maybe in the future, if the AI will be able to do it much more cheaply, then many more children will benefit from individual tuition from advanced artificial intelligence. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. There's also another question, which is at the moment and in the past, a lot of education, some education was done for cultural enrichment and expanding your mind and so on, but some of it was done for a more practical purpose of developing a career and the skills needed to earn a living. If in the future AI is very good at a lot of cognitive work, the economic value of, say, learning software engineering or mathematics may change because we may have AIs doing a lot of accounting and finance and tax law and immigration law and mathematics and all kinds of things. So I think we also need to think about what are the priorities and what is the purpose of education in society. It may shift a bit in the presence of machine intelligence.
So 5 more minutes for Q&A. Dr. Shane Gu, have we touched upon everything that we should, or are we missing anything? Do you have anything more to add?
Yeah, I guess like when Shane was talking about like why is it jagged, right? Why is it jagged? Essentially, there are two factors that contribute to how fast technology evolves. One is basically how hard it is to make that technology. Some domain, right? You just don't have enough data, or you don't have a good architecture. Maybe the GPU, TPU are not sufficient, so it's just hard. The other axis is how much economic value that technology brings. So it's really those two kind of define it. So the reason why it's jagged, one explanation, because for example, the sort of visual reasoning example, there's a recent benchmark called the Baby Vision that came out. The best model is Gemini, but it's worse than 60-year-old. 6歳児より悪い. So, but it's better than the best software engineers at Google DeepMind, OpenAI, Anthropic in many cases. So that kind of stuff, that's like sort of one maybe thing I can. Yeah.
Okay. Akiko-san, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, so I would like to add the one comment for the AGI safety and risk, so that I am the member of the World Economic Forum Global Future Council on AGI, and we are talking about the AGI and the risks. But the final decision is that the AGI is not itself it's not a risk, but the human use the AI is the risk. Because of the always the technology is a neutral, not a bad thing and good things. But if they use the human use the technology in the good way, this is a good things. And the human use the technology as a bad thing, it's a bad thing. So that's why the AGI itself is not a risk, but how to treat and how to use the AGI or how to live with the AGI is one of the topic we have to think about. So that's one of the topic I would like to add.
I'd like to add,
please.
One other risk is that AGI comes and it's able to do a lot of cognitive work, and then maybe some robotics too. This creates a lot of disruption in society. And so there's also a risk of some destabilization in society, in politics, and so on, because of the amount of change that starts happening. And so I think it's going to be very important to think about this and for governments to manage this change. And now they don't want to not embrace the new technology, because then you get left behind what's possible and what's the incredible productivity that's possible. But you need to manage this change so that the society can adapt to it without developing too many problems. So there is some sort of political, social risk associated with such a large change. And so I think that's a really important thing for people to be thinking about.
Yeah, I always say that it's seitotsu in Japanese. I have to how to say in English in seitotsu, growth pain, growing pain. Yeah.
There are quite a few politicians here, like Dr. Shane Legg. What would you advise the Japanese government to do in terms of AI? Because you have mentioned there are lots of things not going to happen. We haven't talked much about government role. What do you think the government should do?
So I think the government has a very important role to play, because this is not a technology that is limited to one industry or application. This is a society level transformation. And so the government, as a representative of the people, has a responsibility to navigate this, right? Now, as companies, we want to be as responsible as possible, but really it's the government who's ultimately responsible, because that's elected by the people and represents the people. So that they play a very, very important role here. And so they need to set up institutions that study safety and all these types of things. At the moment, I think the most important shift is a mental shift. It's a shift in mental attitude. It's an acceptance that powerful artificial intelligence is not just an interesting idea. It's a reality which is taking place today and is going to unfold in the coming years. And this is coming, and it's coming now. And so you need to take this as a serious reality, not as a conceptual possibility. And if you take it as a serious reality, then you need to strongly support things like safety institutes. You need to make sure there are forums where this is taken seriously and discussed. Okay, what are we going to do about this problem? What are we going to do about shifts in employment? What are we going to do about how it affects some of our, strategic questions for the country? Do we need to set up other organizations to study different aspects? How do we interact with the key players that are developing this technology? What things should be done in Japan? What things should be done through collaboration with trusted? All these sorts of questions need to be worked on and taken very seriously, so that as this keeps unfolding, Japan has the thinking in place to navigate this to its benefit.
Very good. Let's open the floor for questions. There are quite a few, so many. Come on. Let's Takamiya-san, Honda Keiko-san, and maybe Nakamura-san. There's so many questions coming up.
Thank you very much for the interesting question. I'm Shin Takamiya from Globus Capital. I'm a venture capitalist, so I have a tendency to jump to conclusions. So I'd like to get your views on how the business and competitive landscape would evolve after the minimum AGI, the competition between different AGIs, competition between the application layer, and eventually, how the vertical integration would kind of evolve.
Good. We always collect 3 questions. So please write up. Well, and then Keiko Honda.
Hi. Well, thank you very much. This is very interesting, very fascinating discussion. I'm Keiko Honda. My question is, I understand that quantum computing is coming a little bit earlier than expected. I had a pleasure to visit the IBM Research Center in Tarrytown last month. Then they told me some of the early prototype is coming up in this year. Then the real possible useful, for example, impacting the banking industry coming in 2028. How the progress, accelerated progress of quantum computing is impacting on the AI side.
Okay, one more question, Nakamura-san.
Hi, I'm Kimi Nakamura from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Japan. Thank you for the insightful discussions. I have a question for Dr. Shengu from an international angle, which is when talking to the developing countries, I often observe the growing concerns over the too much dependency on the tech giants of the foreign countries, especially China and the United States to a certain extent. I always wonder what products and services of the Japanese industries might be effective to address the imperative needs of those countries to mitigate such dependency. Thank you.
Dr. Shen,
Okay.
answer 2 questions.
I'll try to address the first 2 and then hand over to Shengu. So on quantum, I'll give you my personal take is that it's probably not going to be that important. If you study quantum computation, it's very difficult to create a quantum algorithm for most things. So most algorithms from normal computers, you cannot run them on a quantum computer. You have to design the algorithm in a very clever way so that all the wrong answers cancel each other out and you're left with the right answer. And it's very hard to do that. So there are a few very specific types of things you can do with quantum algorithms. Some of them, such as factorizing large numbers, can be used to break some types of encryption. And so if that were to happen, a bunch of types of encryption could be broken and then you could reveal the secrets. That said, there are other types of encryption which is generally believed would not be susceptible to a quantum attack, but it's not entirely sure. So if that does happen, people would switch to types of encryption that are not based on prime number factorization. There are other things quantum algorithms can do, such as table lookups, But taggable lookups with something like a binary tree indexing are already log time, which is super, super fast. And that's why when you do a Google search, the answer comes back like this. So the fact you can go to order 1 complexity doesn't really matter. So I would say overall, it's probably not going to matter too much. And at any rate, we're going to have so much classical computation in the coming years, we're going to see incredible results anyway. So I don't think it probably matters too much for most things. The one thing that I think it will matter a lot for is material science, because the interactions in molecules have a quantum nature to them. And you can explore that very effectively with a quantum computer, much more effectively than with a classical computer. So for material science, that might turn out to be a very important innovation. But for many other areas, I would think not so much. Around competition, I think we will see a few players developing in the coming years, but particularly in places like China. But I think globally, the number of so-called frontier labs at the very frontier of capabilities will never be that big, or at least not for the coming years, because the cost of operating at the frontier is extremely high. And so economically, it doesn't make sense that 100 different players are trying to all do the same thing if you're spending billions of dollars a year doing it. And so it's better that there's, 5, 10 frontier players. At the moment, I'd say there's really 3, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google DeepMind. Maybe there'll be 5, maybe there'll be 10, I don't know. But you're not going to have 100 because it doesn't make economic sense. If there were, they would start merging together to combine resources to be more competitive. So you end up with sort of a small number of players due to the economic dynamics of it. And then the other thing is that progress is so fast that if you are willing to operate a generation behind, that becomes much, much more cheap, including, the computation becomes cheaper, but also the algorithms are increasing in efficiency a lot every year. So if you can, do something that's 6 months or even a year behind, you can do it. And then finally, because it's so competitive for market share, the cost of access to frontier models is actually very low. It's basically driven by the marginal cost of actually deploying these models, not so much by the fixed cost of developing them, because it's amortized over a lot of customers. And so because the competition is so fierce, you can get access to models really, in a sense, at a very good price at the moment, because we're all competing very hard to get the access to the models. So I think these are some of the economic considerations. Now, that may change in the future if progress at some point slows down, for example, because then more players would catch up, there'd be more deployment and so on. So we have to see how the progress happens as well. But that are some of the considerations, I think, in the coming years around the competitive structure here.
Okay, Dr. Shane, good. About dependency.
Yeah, so I give a one-line answer and then pass it to Shane. So basically my one-line answer is basically like for the robotics kind of area, I don't think the Europe and the US alone can be competitive with China because of the entire manufacturing supply chain. And I think the West basically must have like countries like Japan, that I can pretty much only think about Japan, to be an ally to basically compete in physical AI. But I'd love to hear the Shane Leg's answers.
Or shall we go on to other questions? Or?
I'm trying to remember exactly the question.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Let's go on to other questions. Any other questions? Like so many. Okay, we may ask one, and then maybe Mukayama-san, 2 and 3.
Hi, thank you. I'm Tak Mezawa from CSG Japan. Some experts have said that toward the realization of AGI or ASI, the biggest hurdle is actually various restrictions human beings are giving to AIs. How do you think about that argument, and what should we do?
Okay, Karen-san.
Thank you very much for your explanation. I'm a politician from LDP, so thank you for a few days ago as a politician as well. My question is very simple. The recent interaction between Anthropic and US government/DOD, how do you view this interaction, and what are the implications of this incident.
Okay, last question to you. Do you have the microphone?
Yes. Hi, I'm Yuko Noguchi. I'm a lawyer. My question is, what's really the key things for human-centric AI or human in the loop in the age of AGI, especially when we look at AI Act in EU, they try to pre-design it and sort of like failing it. So what's your suggestions about what the law or government should do in that context?
Okay, we have only 4 more minutes and we have to be punctual. So you can ask any kind of question you like. You can ignore some questions if you like. Within 4 minutes, please.
About the Anthropic and United States government, we are obviously watching it with great interest. Now, as per my comments earlier, at some point, governments will become interested in this because they will realize that this is a very important technology for the transformation of society. It's strategically important. It's important for everything from military to finance to medicine to all of these things, right? And so it's expected that governments, and including military and so on, will start to become more and more interested in this. That's just part of the reality of a very, very powerful and general technology. So it's something we are watching with interest. We're not so actively involved in this. It's really between Anthropic and the US government at the moment, but we are watching it with interest. That's all I'll say. What other question?
Do you want to answer Dr. Shengu? Do you want to say something?
I forgot.
Okay, that's okay.
Human in the loop?
Okay, so let's. Do you want to say something
About how to improving the human is one of the topic we have to tackle in. So say that the human sometimes misuse the AI, but I say that it's related to the every single question. But I do believe that we have to think about how to that treat such kind of the problems with the cutting edge technology. So that's the very simple answer to that.
Okay. For 2 more minutes, one last word for the leaders of Japan. What would you like to say? Whatever you want to say. Why don't we start with Dr. Shengu?
Great. So Japan's unique. Leaders like Shenleg really will appreciate working together. I think Japan can really contribute something extremely unique to welcoming this era of AI. So let's work together and then look forward to that day.
Okay, let's ask Akiko first.
So I would like to say to the Japanese government, I'm a part of the Japanese government, but say that they are very limited to thinking about the AI sovereignty. So that's the only the by Japanese and Japanese technology, but so on. But I do believe that it is very need to thinking more globally, not only in Japan, thinking about Japan.
Okay, so Dr. Shenleg, what the messages to Japanese leaders?
Yeah, I actually agree with both of these messages here. I am looking for places around the world that are able to see what is coming here, take this seriously, and then try to navigate it in a cohesive way as a society, right? In a structured way with a planned approach. And I think Japan is a country that may have that ability to do that. And so I'm here to talk to people to see if leaders in business and in government are open to the idea that this is a very, very powerful technology. It will transform Japan, and that Japan should start thinking about this and all the different aspects of it now so that it's properly prepared to do it. And if that is the case, Japan could even be a model for other countries that I think at the moment are less willing to realize what is coming here and the need for transformation and the need to think about this in advance in order for this to go well. And so my dream is that Japan could really embrace this and really be a role model for other countries. And so when other countries start thinking about, oh, we didn't see this AI thing coming, what are we going to do? They'll say, oh, well, Japan has a good plan. Japan's doing some of the right things. They'll put some of the policies, the measures, and the thinking in place for how this is going to benefit Japan. Maybe we should go and talk to the Japanese and find out what they're thinking.
For that purpose, you have to come back again to Japan. And you have to impact to Japanese society because your input and your presence is so much important. So please join us for giving big hands of applause to all the panelists here, especially Dr. Shane Legg for coming all the way from UK to join GMO Summit. Thank you very much. Hey, thank you.